Hi, guys. Welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. It's 2 days before Christmas, December 23rd, 2023. And thanks for joining us. We're a little hour earlier today, um, but we had good turnout for our even earlier show, 8 o'clock last week. So thank you, everybody who got up a little bit early to watch the show. Good turnout. And we thank all our loyal listeners, and like I said, we wish them all a very Merry Christmas to you guys. Thank you. So we're here, and we got a bunch of stuff to talk about. Of course, I'm here with Elijah, who is our co-host and producer of the show. So he'll be joining us in a second. But of course, we always start our show with our monologue, which is sponsored, of course, by Coriano Trucking of Summer Hill, New York, and we wish them and his family a very Merry Christmas as well. So the monologue is something that we watched developed over the past couple of weeks, and it was first Shohei Otani, right, getting $700 million, and now Yamamoto also signs with the Los Angeles Dodgers for $325 million. So what does that mean? That means we saw two players on a 26-man or 28-man major league roster, cumulatively making over $1 billion in salary. And this is it's kind of mind boggling that the money that is being spent. And, so I guess in baseball, right? Yeah, we would say that Shohei Ohtani is the best player in the game, so he deserves the most money. Does he deserve 700 million? And I know they fudged the numbers, and they'll pay this over the next 20 years. But the fact is, this is over $1 billion for two people. And does this guarantee a world championship for the Dodgers? Well, you would think. Um, this guy Yamamoto has been kind of the dominant pitcher in Japanese baseball. I don't know the quality of that baseball. We have seen a lot of Japanese players come to the Major League Baseball level. So, but he has a 1.86 ERA over his first 8 seasons in the Nippon Baseball League in Japan. But again, it's starting to set the precedent for what is going on in sports and why it's becoming unaffordable for the average American family, because when they pay them that much, they got to raise their prices, they got to raise their concessions, and who feels that? The average fan. But you know what? I mean, it's going on in all sports now. I was looking at a list the other day of like the top paid NBA players, and I don't remember exactly, but the usual suspects who are up there. Giannis and these guys, and Kevin Durant, LeBron James, of course, making in excess of $40 million a year. And if you wonder why people can't afford to go to a game, well, that's pretty indicative of it. But that's the market. That's where things are going. We're starting to see it in football as well, and unfortunately, it's going to be the people that really want to go to see these games are going to be affected. So I would love to hear your comments to say if Shohei Otani is in fact worth $700 million, and if Yamamoto is actually worth $325 million. And look at the payroll the Dodgers already have, right? And they got
Absolutely.
Freddie Freeman, they got Mookie Betts, they got. I mean, the payroll is amazing, and it's just
Absolutely.
you never know. But it does not guarantee you a world championship.
Yeah. It does not guarantee a championship. However, I will say this: they're two talented, incredible players. They do deserve their contract that they got, and absolutely that they're on point and they're on pace. They're working good. I think they're worth a contract, 100%, and I think that they will deliver the Dodgers a championship. Also, if you're watching right now live on the Sports Mono Mono YouTube channel, please make sure that you're live because we had some technical issues earlier when the video just started, but it looks like we are good to go. But if you are watching from that end, just make sure you are live. Not to go to Surge Sports YouTube until
Yes, and definitely,
we
I
start
would love
picks.
to hear feedback because I don't know if it's just me alone that's seeing these numbers are so staggering that it seems out of control and it's not going to stop anytime soon.
No,
So
yeah,
send us a comment or send us an email.
yep. Do what you got to do.
Yep. All right, Eli. So let's
Yep.
jump into it. Right, we got some NFL is kind of on the docket. Right, we got games today.
Yes, two games, one on TV, one you can't really watch, and yeah,
Yeah, games today, games tomorrow, Christmas Day, kind of rare, but we'll see how that plays out. But there's we're coming down in the last few weeks of the season, and there's a lot of races still to be decided. When you look at what's going on right now, the San Francisco 49ers look almost unbeatable, but
correct,
we saw them lose a couple of games. You
correct,
know, a month ago we were talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. They looked unbeatable. They've
right,
lost 3 straight games. So this is wide open, and playoff picture is anything but settled. And you have some, the mediocrity in the NFC South, right, with Tampa Bay and all those other teams, basically hovering around 500. Um, but we did pick the Bills last week. That was a good call on our part, right?
yes, it
Because I
was.
think they got a lot of talent.
Bills have a heck of a talent, and let me tell you, look at the Dolphins' schedule. If you have a chance, obviously, take a look at the Dolphins' schedule. You look at the schedule; they have the Cowboys, they have the Ravens, and the Bills. Those are not easy. Let me tell you, and they lost to the
And
Bills already.
they're
These
not
are teams
easy.
over 500, and these are not teams that anytime soon that the Cowboys, that the Dolphins have beat. They've not beat a team yet over 500, so that is a test to keep in mind about. They're not beat a
That's
team over
exactly
500,
right.
and they do it. So that is why the Bills will have a great chance going forward because they have a much easier schedule compared to Miami.
You're absolutely right about that. That's a staggering fact that they haven't beaten anybody with a 500 record. It's kind of a little surprising, actually.
It is surprising. So yeah,
When we see yesterday, all right, the Rams um, have kind of rallied back, so they're kind of back in the mix, and that's
right.
good because we want to see guys. When you want to you get to the playoffs, you want to see these guys that perform, like an Aaron Donald, right? So I'm hoping, I'm pulling for them. I like Matthew Stafford, kind of winding down. He's been battling injuries, but he's seems to be gutting this out. So they're
Yeah,
back in the mix, and we're looking at in the AFC with Cincinnati, right? They lose Joe Burrow. Out of the blue comes Jake Browning, starting to perform well, so they're back in the mix. So this is really going to come down in the last couple of weeks of the season. So
right.
playoff picture is anything but set right now.
Absolutely, 100%. That is wide open. I have the standing board right behind me. Here, it is open up. You have the North. It's anybody's game. You still have all 4 teams not eliminated yet. The South, you have the Texans, Colts, and Jaguars who keep on winning games / losing. You have the West, which obviously the Raiders and Chargers will probably be out after this weekend. More than likely will be my prediction. So it's going to be between Denver and Kansas City. Kansas City more than likely going to take it. And East is open as well. It could be Buffalo or Miami. But if you think the AFC is hot, what up the NFC? You have the West, obviously, we know is the 49ers. The South, you have a wide open division. You could be the Saints, the Buccaneers, or the Falcons that could win home the number 1 spot. You have the North, where it could be the Lions that will more than likely take first place. But then who is going to be the next wild card spot? You have the Cowboys, Eagles trying to fight for number 1. Both have a playoff spot. Now the question is now in the NFC, who is the top 4, which we already know for the NFC East it is, but who is going to be these wild card spots? There are a lot of good teams out there. Could be the Rams, could be the
Yeah,
Seahawks. They're good. Could be one of the
you're right.
seven. So it's open, 100% open. So just keep in mind about that. That if you think the AFC is loaded, NFC is just as loaded because we are
I
still trying to
know.
figure out spots for wild card. Because look at this, Seahawks are now winning. They're now a good team to watch out for. You have the Rams who won again, good against the Saints on Thursday night. Plus, they have a decent schedule coming up for the future. So that is just stuff to keep in mind about. Where do these NFC teams stand at the end of this week, and who's going to claim that wildcard spot? How do they push better for the next 2 games to come?
And you know what? I think you even brought this up, Eli. you know, maybe we got to take a look at it because you have both Dallas and the Eagles atop the NFC East, right? And then
Right.
in the NFC South, you have three mediocre teams, right? You got Tampa Bay, you got Atlanta, and who's the third one out there?
Tampa Bay, Atlanta, and New Orleans.
In New Orleans, right? So one of them's getting in. Neither one of those teams is a legitimate contender for the Super Bowl,
No.
like what with the 49ers and the Eagles and the Cowboys.
Right.
Those are the predominantly best teams.
But you
Detroit,
could
we're
also
still
say that the wild card teams too have a chance because if you look at the Rams and Seahawks, depending on who they play, they could somehow pull the upset and win if those
yeah.
two are the extra two wild card spots.
And you know what? I think the one team that kind of I mean, they're going to get in because they're going to win the division is Detroit. But week after week, we don't seem to know what we're going to get with them. And
You see, when I look
um,
at Detroit, I look at this. They're this wishy-washy team that wins against easy teams, but when they play against tough teams, they look like an interesting character, an interesting person. I
mhm.
don't think the Lions are the true Lions that they're going to make it to the Super Bowl, go to the second and third round of the playoffs. I don't see that happening. Other people do. I don't see it coming. I think this will be a one-time deal. They'll make the playoffs for the first round, be out, and now it's like, oh well, the Lions are really the same old Lions. They just made the playoffs, though. I think that's how people are going to react after this upcoming playoffs. Which, by the way, we are 50 days away from the Super Bowl.
Right. So, the Detroit Lions are only going as far as Jared Goff's going to take them.
Right.
And he's had this up and down career, right? When he first started, he wasn't good, and then McVay came, he was really good. And now he went to Detroit. He's putting up big numbers, but that team is clearly on his shoulders to go anywhere into the playoffs. And we've seen he could have a good game, he could have a bad game. So um, NFC absolutely wide open. I think we pretty clear cut in the AFC. I think we'd have to both concede that Baltimore seems to be playing the best right
Baltimore's the
now.
best, and they will win number one.
Yeah, so they'll be the number one seed most likely. In Miami, they're putting up all these points, but you're right, they haven't beaten anybody that's worthy. So that's going to be a problem for them. But it's coming down the stretch and very very exciting in the NFL this year. Good
Yeah,
parity.
absolutely. It's a great area, and I think when you just look at a team that is out of the playoffs at the moment, but I'm going to go to the Jets at this point. Let's go. I'm going to go to the Jets real quick. I
Yep,
know,
go
hate to
ahead.
talk about it, but when you look at this team, they're out of playoffs. No potential. Zach
They're
Wilson's
out.
out. They're out. There's nothing to look forward to. But I would not be surprised they somehow win the next three games. I don't know
I
why.
can't see that
I could
happening.
see it possible because they have the Commanders this weekend. That's a win. Then you look at the rest of the schedule. It's a possibility of wins. And Aaron Rodgers, we know he's done for the season. We know he's done. He will not be returning.
Oh
Thank
God! Well,
God.
thank goodness we know that for sure now because
Yes, thank God.
all he's been doing is dangling that carrot in front of the horse, right?
Yes, he
And
has.
saying, "I'm coming back. I'm coming back. I'm coming back." Well,
The Jets,
he wasn't coming back no matter what happened. So
right.
I don't know what his angle was about coming back and saying he was going to play, but they're out. And just like the Giants, right? We had a couple early opportunities in the beginning of the season with the Buffalo game and the Jet game, so they let those two losses. So they're done too,
Yeah.
and
They're not
very
officially out
frustrating.
yet, but they will be.
No, they're out because they got Philadelphia twice in the next 3 weeks, and they're not going to beat.
No, they're not going to rely on Tommy DeVito as their quarterback to give them victory success. And if they do win against Philadelphia, then there'll be talks.
Right. Well, he's got to start. He's got to make sure he gets enough
So now
bagel shop.
this becomes the question now. We said last week, is Daniel Jones going to keep his position or is Tommy DeVito going to take it over?
No,
Last
he's not.
week, the Saints beat the Giants pretty good. And he looked bad out there. So do you think now, changing the opinion, is Daniel Jones keeping his position or will Tommy DeVito become a top 3 starter next year?
Daniel Jones is going to be the quarterback of the New York Giants. Once he's healthy, he'll be back ready for the season.
Yes.
There is no imminent quarterback controversy. I hope we don't have to talk about this again,
Yeah,
but yeah, so that's interesting stuff.
yeah.
And a couple other things, like you see, this could be the first season that because the Pittsburgh Steelers are not playing good football, and Kenny Pickett's not living up to the number one draft pick status. I still have some hopes for him, but something's going on with the Steelers, and this, you know, as good as Mike Tomlin has been, and I think he's one of the best coaches in the league. I think we're going to be looking at a change for some reason because it just doesn't seem to have any
No,
cohesiveness on that team, and he can't. So he's had an above 500 record for like 9 seasons in a row, but I think that streak is
that
certainly
streak is
in
done
jeopardy.
and it's over with.
Yeah. So let's go into our picks, right?
Yeah,
We
and then
had
I'll
a
go
good
back to
week
some points
last week.
after. No problem. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a good week.
Yes, we did. We had I was 2-1. You went 3-0.
All right, I wasn't gonna parade that around, but now that you bring it up, thank you. But we were both on board with the Buffalo Bills because I'm
Yeah,
still a believer in them, right?
right.
So there's some good games, there's some borderline games that could impact the playoff picture. And first game is going to be Seattle, Tennessee. I know these are your Seahawks, and I've been, you know what? I feel much more comfortable in picking a Seattle Seahawks team that doesn't have Geno Smith as the quarterback, and
Well, we
that
don't know that
Drew
yet.
Lock.
We
Yeah,
don't know that yet
yeah.
because right as of now, Geno Smith is off injury report. He could play this week. Now,
I
I'm not
think
saying
there's
he's a
yeah.
starter, but he could play. That is what we're told.
And I'm not putting Drew Lock obviously in the Hall of Fame, but he came up big last week, and I think he
Absolutely.
earned the right. I think he earned the right to at least start the game. And I think Carroll has a lot more belief in him than he does with Geno Smith. So
Yeah.
I'm going to take Seattle over Tennessee, which, Tennessee is they're basically in a rebuilding. Derrick Henry's not the same guy. So I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks on that. And then in the second game, Indianapolis. Now this is another interesting team, right? They made the commitment to go with Anthony Richardson. He subsequently gets hurt right out of the gate. So now they turn to Gardner Minshew, what I think is kind of a mediocre quarterback. But they're playing well, and they got a good running game with Jonathan Taylor. That's kind of that's a hard team to figure out, but they do win, and they're playing Atlanta this week. But again, with Indianapolis, I'm not a complete believer in Gardner Minshew. So we see Atlanta week after week. They play good, they don't play good. Ritter's in, Ritter's out. They give the ball to Robinson, they don't give the ball to Robinson. They got to figure something out because Arthur Smith's job is on the line. But I'm going to take Atlanta as the upset over Indianapolis this week because they're
Yeah.
home. Right. And the third game is, and again, I don't know exactly the status of Trevor Lawrence and how bad that ankle
I think
is,
it's
but
doubtful to play.
yeah, he's a gutsy kid. But I mean, if he doesn't play, they don't go anywhere. But I'm taking them over Tampa Bay because I don't believe in Baker Mayfield, and I don't believe in Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay is home. So that's my upset special of the week right there.
All right.
That's
Well,
a
I guess we're 2 for 3 on this week, I guess. I am taking my Seattle Seahawks to beat the Tennessee Titans 35-24. The Seahawks are the better team. Titans do not have potential going forward. If they lost last week pretty bad to the Texans in overtime, I don't think they'll beat the Seattle Seahawks. The Colts are the better team. Falcons are horrible. If they lose to the Carolina Panthers, they ain't win it to the Indianapolis Colts, who are looking very hot right now and potentially a playoff team. So we are going to go with the Colts 24-23. Buccaneers Jaguars. I love Baker, what he did last week in Green Bay. I can't trust Trevor Lawrence, especially with him not possibly returning this weekend. So I'm going to take Tampa Bay 24-21. So I'm taking the Colts, Seahawks, and Buccaneers for my 3 picks of the week. And I'm going to go ahead and bring up some quick NFL topic news stuff that I forgot to mention. Here we are. We're going to mention anyways.
right.
CJ Stroud is out this Sunday versus the Browns, so that could hurt the Texans. Either way, if you watch my show yesterday, Told Horse Podcast, I still picked the Texans to win. Geno Smith is off the injury report, as we mentioned, so he is potentially able to play. Jamal Adams still out for the Seahawks. Joey Hunt, who was claimed by Joe Buck as a staff member, has been fined $1,610 for unsportsmanlike conduct towards A.J. Brown. And to represent what Joe Buck said as a staff member, he wore a T-shirt to practice, said staffer. So yeah.
What's the backstory there? I don't even know about this. What is this?
So Joey Hunt
How does a staffer get fined? I don't understand.
No, it's complicated. Joey Hunt's a player for Seattle, but because he was not playing that day, he was dressed as a Seattle. He has regular staff member clothes on.
Okay.
Joe Buck called him a staff member. Okay, so he was he later wore to practice that week staffer as a teacher as a joke, but that wasn't the reason why he was fined the $1,610. But because of unsportsmanlike conduct towards A.J. Brown when he had said silent after a play. So that was a whole money reason involved there. But it was just a joke that they made because of what Joe Buck said.
Okay.
All right, NFL has also fined the Falcons $75,000 and Arthur Smith $25,000 for not reporting about Bijan Robinson that he would be out for Week 7 when they played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year. Zach Wilson is out this weekend. Aaron Rodgers will not play. Instead, the backups will be Trevor Siemian and Brett Rypien. Peacock will have the fourth quarter commercial-free during the exclusive game tonight. That is at 8 p.m. only on Peacock. So you have to watch Peacock if you want it. There's no free trial.
You got to pay to watch it. You got to pay.
Not really worth it because the Bills and the Chargers, Bills are winning, so that's not worth the money. Playoff scenarios: the Ravens could clinch the AFC North title, and the Browns, Chiefs, and Dolphins can all clinch this weekend. 49ers can clinch the number 1 seed with a loss from Eagles, Cowboys, and Lions, and a win. The Lions could also clinch the NFC North title, plus make the playoffs this weekend. And finally, Chiefs Patrick Mahomes was fined $50,000, and Coach Andy Reid was fined $100,000 for unsportsmanlike conduct towards the refs at the Bills game a few weeks ago.
Well, and yeah, to that point, that's very un-Patrick Mahomes like. And he actually came out and said I was way out of line. I set a bad example for his fans, and like I said, my grandson's one of his biggest supporters, and he's a legend to him. And yeah, it wasn't a good look, but you can see how that happens when guys get caught up in in the throes of passion, and it cost them. Kind of cost them the game, but $50,000 to Patrick out of his pocket. But yeah, no, I still think he's a role model. He's a class act. He just lost his cool. I think that's all happened to all of us. So right.
Yeah.
So good. 100%. We kind of. Man, we covered the NFL pretty deeply here. So a lot going on. Last 3 weeks of the season, big games. And there's, like we said, there's games on Christmas Eve tomorrow, and games on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah, right? Christmas Day.
Yes. By the way, the Christmas Monday night game, which is Ravens 49ers, the epic game to watch out for, is only on ABC. And that's because the NBA coverage will be on ESPN. So only on ABC is where you'll find Monday Night Football, Ravens versus 49ers. So just keep in mind about that.
All right. Good production note. Appreciate that. You're always on top of it. So let's just touch base real quick on college football. And, obviously we know we have the, the Final Four CFP teams. Michigan, Alabama, Texas, Washington, right?
Yes.
But again, these guys have been off for basically a month. And the game really isn't until January 1st. And then the championship game will be the next following week, like January 8th. So, some of the teams could have lost momentum. Some teams could get rusty. That's why it's wide open. And we'll talk about we're going to actually make our selections on next week's show.
Right.
So, but I got to tell you though, couple of things. Not only is obviously the marquee teams, the Michigans, the Ohio States, whatever, but I've been watching some good football with some Division II and Division III things. Like we mentioned last week, Cortland won the Division III and I watched a great game, North Dakota State versus Howard. And this is great football. These are
Oh yeah.
kids that have a lot to play for, and North Dakota State has been a predominantly a perennial uh, national championship in that league,
Hmm.
but they lost to Howard in overtime. Um, so now Howard's playing. I think it's Florida A&M, the Rattlers, which I think is a pretty cool name
Yeah.
uh, for that championship. And they're actually more intriguing than some of the other bowl games that are happening, which doesn't seem to have that luster when you're talking about teams that are 6-5. I
Right.
mean, we're seeing that too much. Um, but you're going to get an overdose of um, college football playoff games and bowl games over the next week. But let's not lose sight that the big ones are down the road in 2 weeks. So,
Yeah.
uh, but if you get a chance to watch some Division II or Division III games,
Go.
check it out. I mean, these
Do it.
guys have a lot to play for.
Absolutely. 100%.
So, um, we'll go more into our college football.
Next week.
Still dealing with this respiratory issue. I apologize.
You're good.
So let's move on to college basketball because, as you know, once the new year starts, college basketball really takes center stage because of all the conference tournaments and then ultimately March Madness. So we always said, right, that being number one doesn't mean a lot in college basketball, right? Purdue is
Right.
number one, they get knocked off. Then Arizona becomes number one. Purdue goes in, knocks them off. They go
Yeah.
back to number one, right? It's almost a kiss of death kind of thing. But some great games and like the in-conference tournaments starting, like the Big East. And I wanted to point out one with Providence. Nobody had them on the radar. They got a new coach, Kim English, who came over from George Mason. But they go out and beat the number 6 team in the country, Marquette. So,
Yeah.
that's a big game. That's
Opens
a
up a lot.
big win for Kim English. And so the parity in college basketball varies from night to night, right? You used to always think when Duke played, they were going to win, but they don't always win anymore. And when Kentucky plays, they win, but they're not always winning all the time now. So you got to keep an eye on this because college basketball. Listen, what did we see last year? Florida Atlantic going to the final. I mean, who in their right mind could have possibly predicted that?
Nobody could
That's what
predicted
makes
that. However, I am great. I'm a St. Mary Gale. Nick Boyd went from to St. Mary's, who played for Florida Atlantic. He still is. So he is a crucial part of St. Mary's. So we're grateful at St. Mary's for
who
him to
was
go
that?
for.
Who was that, and
Nick
where did he
Boyd.
go?
Nick Boyd. He's at Florida Atlantic. He went to St. Mary's. He was, I believe, at Don
Oh,
Bosco for the first 2 years, and then he went the last 2 years at St. Mary's. He actually scored 1,000 points with St. Mary's. He's now at Florida Atlantic. He was at the Final Four. He was actually kind enough to donate shoes and backpacks to the men's basketball team here at St. Mary's. So he has put a
nice.
lot of donations in, and yeah, he played at the Final Four. So for us, Florida Atlantic, we're rooting for them because St.
Did
Mary's and
he
everything that he's
did he
done.
get in? Did he get in and play in the final game last year? No.
Yes, he did.
Oh,
He was
good.
playing. Yeah. So I don't really know Nick Boyd, but I've seen everybody else talk about him and how much he did for the school, especially this year, giving all this donation stuff. So obviously, we're grateful for
No,
these
very cool.
opportunities. So yeah, we root for Florida Atlantic. So we got no beef with them.
Okay. Well, here's a game that kind of didn't have anything more than just a personal uh, point of view from my perspective. But my Niagara Purple Eagles played Syracuse in the Carrier. Well, it's not called the
Yeah.
Carrier
Well,
Dome anymore, but it's now the JMA Wireless Stadium. But that's a big team. Syracuse, right? This is the first post
right.
Jim Biden season. They got Adrian Autry's the coach. But my Niagara Purple Eagles can hold their head up high. They only lost by 11 or 12 on the road. And the Niagara coach is Greg Paulus, former Duke player who grew up in the Syracuse area, so that was kind of a we lost, but it was kind of a win for Niagara. I want
Yeah.
to. That's my plug for my alma mater there.
All
Had to
right.
bring it
Yeah,
up.
you
I had
had
to
to.
bring it
Yeah.
up. So also, and this is going to make sense when we talk about uh, basketball because we have a video clip we're going to show later on, and
Yes, indeed.
it's kind of cute. Actually, it's kind of cute. So the NBA, it's the NBA. It's really not that exciting other than some
No.
individual play, right? You see guys like Gilgis Alexander and these new young guys coming into the league and making a name for themselves as the older generation, I'll call it, right? The LeBrons and the Durants and the Westbrooks and these guys are on the back end of their career. So these young kids are coming in and these are going to be the players of the future. But
Right.
they got to stay grounded, these kids, because we saw what happened with John Morant, right? He couldn't. The success was overwhelming, and he almost blew his entire career. But like anything we talk about the NBA, these guys get more lives than a cat, right? So,
Right.
um, but there is some young good talent in this league, and we'll see how that pans out. But right now, I got to be honest, I can't really get enthused about the NBA right now.
No, NBA is not really exciting. I think, as much as we complain much about the NBA in-season tournament, I think that's the only thing that really saved the NBA from losing like its viewership. And it's like, oh, hey, watch the NBA this time of year. Like, no, I think now that they did the NBA in-season tournament, we actually became more attracted to it. So I think that was actually, plus, because I think we got more into NBA when that in-season tournament was happening. So, I think that
I
helped us out a lot. I mean, not us. I'm saying like just in general. I think that helped out a lot.
Well, you know what? That's an interesting point, Eli, because I'm gonna have to say it didn't pique my interest one iota more than I had
Well,
because it really doesn't. It had no impact on anything other than multimillionaires making 40, $50 million getting additional monies. I don't see that it had any appeal to me, unless I'm missing
no, yeah,
something. But
I know. I agree with you when you're saying at that point, but I think maybe because we really were not into when you look at non in season tournament wise, like right now, we're not like, well, the NBA is NBA, nothing really happening. I'm saying with the in season tournament, I think that helped saying like, hey, remember this sport, the NBA? I know there's a lot of college football and the NFL happening, but hey, we still got this wonderful sport called the NBA. Let's just like shake it up. So I think what Adam Silver has done, I think, still kind of woke up the NBA in a new way. So I think when it comes to that perspective, now I still think it was like a silver joke, but I think now you got to look at it and it's like, hey, it wasn't actually a bad idea as you think.
mm,
And we have a comment from
yeah.
Andrew Caroline. Good morning and Merry Christmas. Agree, NBA is no longer worth my time.
Well, and that's kind of how I feel. Thank you, Andrew, for the comment because I feel
Yeah,
the exact same way. It had no impact on anything other than them changing the court, and it's a good marketing thing. But
yeah, but I
that's a
think that
great.
it woke up the NBA saying, hey, pay attention to us now. I know football's great, college football's great, NFL's great, but like focus like back on where it gets exciting towards the playoff time. Think about this in season tournaments. So I think that kind of woke everything up a little bit. So now looking at it from this perspective. And by the way, the
I got
Lakers
to
did host up their NBA championship banner for the tournament, in case everybody wants to know. But yeah,
Yeah, okay. The courts were cool. They looked different. That was great. But that's really all I saw. I couldn't agree with Andrew
yeah,
more. I really couldn't. I don't see that it had any impact whatsoever on my viewership of the NBA. And
yeah.
listen, I'll tune into the NBA as it gets closer, or we last couple of weeks of the season, and then the playoffs, because that's
Hmm.
when
Things heat up.
those guys put 100% out. Right now, you can see what's going to happen over the next 2 months. There's going to be, LeBron taking games off, and then they'll say Durant needs some time off. He's injured. And all it
Right.
is resting these players because all that it means,
Yeah.
most teams get into the playoffs and they want these guys rested. So what does that do? That kind of gyps the fans that are
Changes everything
going,
around.
Right, but it also gyps the fans that are going and saying, you want to see the Lakers play in Brooklyn or New York, and LeBron
Yeah.
James may or may not play in that game because he's resting. And I know
Yeah.
the term they call it load management, but I go back to the 70s with the Knicks and all the Celtics, and these guys played every day, every week, and they were great. They played offense, they played defense. So the game has definitely changed to a point where it's not like, and I know you don't remember, but I always reference the two championships the Knicks won in 1970 and 1973. These guys played every
Yeah.
single game, and these guys don't do it today. So it's a different thing. And what bothers me the most, Eli, is they're making ridiculous money. Ridiculous.
Right.
$49 million a year for James
Sitting on the
Harden.
bench. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we covered the NBA.
Yeah.
Like I said, but college basketball is more exciting than the NBA. And
Oh yeah.
so let's move on to some random points. I'm sure you'll have some. I got a few, but of course,
Yes.
that's sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut. And heard from them last week, and can't thank them enough for this sponsorship. So a couple of quick things. I did notice this, and this is all again the fact that USC. You could probably bet that USC will be on television every single game going forward in some sort of a venue. Why? Because LeBron James' son plays for USC.
Okay.
And we all
Enough said there.
assume that
Yeah.
we all assume that he's going to be the next LeBron James, and I don't think it's
Is he
warranted.
though? Is he?
No, that's my point. But they're going to be on television more often than not. I mean, they were on the other night, and he scored 4 points. And yes, he's a freshman right out of high school. I get that, but we're putting a lot of burden on this kid to carry that legend, and I just right now I don't think it's warranted, but it's good marketing, it's good
Yeah.
viewership for college basketball. So get used to
It
it
is
because
what
you're
it
going to
is.
see him a lot.
Yeah.
Interesting point. So an amazing streak ended this week, right? Maybe not exactly the Lou Gehrig, Cal Ripken thing, but Steph Curry's consecutive game streak with 3-point shot has ended at 268.
Wow.
And when you look at that, that's over the course of probably 3 to 4 seasons because he's missed a lot of time in between, right? But that's some record. That's some record.
Yeah. It is a heck of a
268
record.
games. And we talk about him. Listen, he's going to go down as one of the greatest shooters in NBA history.
He will. And he's
without
already a Hall of Famer. He's not even done with the season. He's a Hall of Famer.
That's right. No question about it. But that's a streak that ended. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
One
give
other
my
quick thing. Go ahead.
I'll do my thoughts real quick on the random points rather. Let's go to the Devils first. The Devils are 16, 13, and 2. They're home today, take on the Red Wings 7 o'clock. They lost last Thursday 6-3 to Oilers. They're not looking good this year. Hopefully, can change it around. However, Jack Hughes is the fastest Devil in history to reach 100 goals, and Lindy Ruff has 850 coaching wins, fourth all time. So that is congratulations to him and the New Jersey Devils. By the way, the Winter Classic is happening January 1st in Seattle at T-Mobile Park, where the Seattle Mariners play. So they'll be playing outdoors versus the Golden Knights in T-Mobile Park in Seattle. So tune in on TNT.
Okay.
I believe it's a 3 o'clock game, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe 7, depending on the
Okay.
time. And finally, the Baltimore Orioles have agreed to stay in Camden Yards for 30 more years. So congratulations to Baltimore. And yeah.
Well, that's a team on the rise, and we're gonna actually bring up the Baltimore Orioles again at the end of the show for a particular reason. So a couple other quick things I saw, right? Tiger Woods was back playing his first competitive tournament. Not really. It's not a PGA event. It's a team thing with plays with his son Charlie, who we've been watching, right? We've been
Right.
watching this with him and his son for 3 years, and he was this kind of little kid, and now, I mean, now he's like 13, 14 years old.
Well, yeah.
He does the mannerisms exactly like his father. Is he going to be the player his father is? That's a tall ask, but
Yeah.
it was good to see. He had his daughter on the bag and his son playing, and it is remarkable how exactly the same their swing, their mannerisms, and their demeanor on a golf course is. But I did notice that Tiger Woods is still kind of limping around a little bit.
Hmm.
So, I don't know if this means he's going to come back. He says he's healthy, but I could see him lumbering a little bit. So we got
Oh
to
yeah.
keep an eye on that as the PGA Tour kicks off back in, probably. I mean, I know the first one is in Hawaii in January, but things really start picking up in
Yeah.
March and getting ready for the Masters in May. Um, but I did want to bring up because a couple of quick things from the high school note, and you know how you talk about St. Mary's quite often. I talk about St. Joe's, and I
Yeah.
mentioned that St. Joe's coach stepped down last week, but they have rehired their former coach and absolutely great guy, Augie Hoffman, who won 2 state titles for St. Joe's. He is now back at the helm, and it's going to be a great motivation for recruiting and so forth. But he's a great guy. I had an opportunity to talk to Augie. Like to get him on the show. This is big time college football, and that's why he was on Greg Schiano's staff for a while at Rutgers, and so that's how prominent high school football is in northern New Jersey this time of year. It's great.
Mm.
So welcome back to Augie, and hopefully we can get him on the show.
Yeah.
And your St. Mary's team, as you've been calling it, won by 80 points. Now explain this to us because I'm sure you called the game,
Yes, I
right?
was doing PA announcing for that game. I can't say much because I know we were getting in trouble already. I know we have league issues already starting. I know that we got complaints already. The broadcast has been put on private mode, so you cannot watch the game anymore or rewatch
Why
it.
is that? Why
Uh,
is that?
I'll tell you after the show.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So you cannot watch the game. But yeah, I can't say much. But from what I can say is I was at the game. I was there. I will say this though. St. Mary should have not scored as many 3-pointers as they should. I will say though, we gave every opportunity possible to Washington, but they could just not make a basket.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody would be guarding them. They'll be having free throws, and no shots were made. And St. Mary's just kept on scoring because they want the points. And there was no decision of why they just kept shooting, but we just know that they won pretty big. So yeah, there are reasons
Yeah,
I
and
can't really much say at the moment, but yeah.
the reason I brought it up is, and I'm trying to go back into our old notes because we saw a game. I know we brought it up on the show. They won by like 90 points or something. I think it was a Division
Yeah.
three college basketball game or something. But that came off. I go 80 points. I mean, who were they playing? I mean, was it St. Mary's versus St. Mary's School for the Blind? I mean,
It was
how could it be?
Wallington. We
I
played
know
Wallington.
who it was. Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It was just a complicated game. Sorry
okay.
for the loss in there, and yeah, there's not much I really could say there for from that perspective. I can't release too many details. But yeah.
Yeah, well, okay. So there's a backstory here. Stay tuned for next week if we can. We have to we have to get some inside scoop on this because you can't leave our audience dangling with that one.
Well,
So
unfortunately, there's some news I can share. Just there's some that I can't, regardless if I
understood,
know. Yeah.
understood,
Yeah.
understood.
Yep.
I got one last random points of interest, and again, here we go. You know how this show takes its pride in when you mention Hall of Fame, right? So there were basketball Hall of Fame nominations this week. And when I was going over the list, there were 2 names that I said, I have no problem with him. and that one of them is Vince Carter. He had a long year, actually long career, played 22 seasons, which may be a record. I don't know, but he was pretty dynamic, very athletic, and unfortunately, one of those guys that was a great player but never won an NBA championship. Got to the finals a couple times with the Nets, but I have no problem with him. And I'm not just saying that because he was from North Carolina, which was one of my favorite college basketball teams. But he was very dynamic, and I had no problem with him. And one other guy on that list, I'm not even sure why it's taken so long for this guy to even get a look. But I think Bill Lambier, who won 2 titles with the Pistons, and yeah, a lot of people consider him, I don't want to say dirty, but an ultra aggressive player. But that was the style back then.
Right.
That's the way you had to play. He was in the Michael Jordan era. But at Bill Lambier, now he's a coach in the WNBA or something. But his performance as a player in the NBA, I think belongs in the Hall of Fame. Like I said, that you could make a case for or against it, but I would say, and I know Jim Walsh in Long Island is listening, and he doesn't like hemming and hawing, so I'm not hemming and hawing on Carter and Lambier. The rest of the guys I saw on the list, they're gonna have to wait.
Yeah,
anyway,
100%.
right? So, while we're talking about basketball, we have a little video clip I'd like everybody to see.
Just one moment. Here we go.
And I know people might think this is a replay from last year, but it's not. All right.
All right.
So, by the way, that was my grandson, right? So the score was 23-23, and he had to make one of two at the line to win the game, which he did.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's not a replay of last year. He had the same thing, but last year he needed to make both of them, and he did. So I'm very proud of my grandson.
Good for him.
Sports related. So, let the host have his moment of glory here. Then thanks for posting.
No problem.
All right. So as Eli has posted up for us, our movie recommendations, and we've been doing the Christmas theme stuff for past few weeks, right?
Last one.
We've had Elf, we've had A Christmas Story, we've had It's a Wonderful Life, and do you have one in particular? Because the ones that I have are not necessarily movies, but they're definitely prevalent in Christmas time, and that's Frosty the Snowman, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and of course, The Grinch. So those are 3 classics that need to be watched by kids and grown men like me. Believe it or not, I still enjoy them. So that's why I would recommend them. Okay. Eli, you got a movie recommendation?
Movie recommendation. I'm gonna go ahead and go with National Lampoon's Christmas Story Vacation. Yeah, I'll go with that one.
Christmas Vacation.
I know a lot of people.
I've seen the original Vacation. Never saw Christmas Vacation, but people do say it's pretty good. So
yeah, that would be anything like that was pretty good.
Good stuff. Yeah. So we got a couple of notable passings, and these were certainly notable to me because one of them was Eric Montrose, and Eric Montrose played. He played at North Carolina, won the championship for Dean Smith in 1993. Outstanding center, really dominant, and he was only 52 years old, and that's a big loss. But I got to tell you, I enjoyed watching him on those North Carolina teams, and they won the championship. That wasn't an easy team to beat. He was against Michigan in the Fab Five, which, as we know, was one of the most notoriously best starting lineup with 5 freshmen on that team. But North Carolina won that game.
Hmm.
I know there was the Chris Webber timeout thing, but whatever. Um, Eric Montrose was a hell of a basketball player. Subsequently became kind of the voice of Tar Heel Radio, and that's a big loss in
Yeah,
the North
huge.
Carolina community. Absolutely great player, great player. And one I just saw today, which kind of caught me off guard a little bit because I mentioned we were going to bring back something regarding the Orioles and so forth. And Ryan Miner, who was he was a two-star player, basketball and baseball player at Oklahoma, but came out and played a majority of his career with the Baltimore Orioles. And what was notable about his career is he was the guy that played for third base, the game that Cal Ripken took himself out and broke the consecutive game streak of 2,632, which we
Wow.
always thought could never, you never break Lou Gehrig's
Yeah.
record of 2,130 games, but he did. He was only 49 years old, so he had that notoriety.
Yeah.
Like Lou Gehrig replaced Wally Pipp, and Babe Dahlgren subsequently replaced Lou Gehrig when he couldn't go anymore. So he took over for Cal Ripken, and 49 years old again, much too young, much too young.
Yeah. 100%.
Anybody I missed this week, Eli?
No, that's all I had. You had
Well,
it.
that's good.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, we always note that always like the last week of the year, we're going to probably have some
Hit
more
something.
because
Yeah.
there's always a history of people dying at the end of the year. But hopefully,
Yeah.
we don't run into that.
Absolutely. That's the hope.
So listen, I wanted to take this opportunity to wish all of our
Everyone.
loyal listeners a very Merry Christmas. And I really want to give a shout out to my brother Chris, who's been caring for my brother Stephen for I'm closing in on a year now. So
Wow.
that's what you do. That's what family is all about. And we consider our loyal listeners, both from your side of the fence to my side of the fence,
Yeah.
very special. The Jim Walshes, the Jeremy Bennetts, you guys all know who you are. The Mike Garveys, the Don Orlowskis, you guys, they come with us. The Andrew Carolins, they're with us week after week. Our sponsors are here, and we're looking forward to having a great 2024 and doing
But
some
we have one
different
more show
things.
before then.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we'll wish everybody a happy New Year.
Merry
But right
Christmas.
now, it's Christmas time, and I hope all our loyal listeners stay safe and enjoy time with their families.
Yes.
And I just want to wish to everybody a Merry Christmas and a special thank you to all of our loyal listeners. So
Merry Christmas, and we will see you next week before the new year.
we will. So we'll be back at 10 next week,
Yep. Programming
unless
no changes. Yep.
otherwise noted during the week. But enjoy the football games, enjoy the sports, enjoy the food, the cookies, and
All
the
that
whole
fun stuff.
Santa
Yep.
Claus thing, right?
Yep.
So Eli, thank you. Best to you and your family as well, my
Yes.
friend.
Same with
Right?
you. Have a good one, everyone.